Right, let's talk a little about why I'm still on last gen. For those who don't know, I still daily drive an Xbox One X, the limited edition Cyberpunk edition to be exact. It is absolutely beautiful. And of course, the limited edition controller. It is absolutely beautiful. And before someone says it, no, I haven't beaten the hell out of it. That is brand new stock. That's how it looks. It's meant to look like that. Anyway, why I stuck with the Xbox One X. Now, I used to have a Series S that I daily drove for about a year. But here's the thing, the storage space was abysmal. 500 gigs in 2020 when this came out on a digital only console is ridiculous. Keeping in mind, Call of Duty alone these days can take up nearly 200 gigs. And then you think about GTA 5, which is a common install as well, taking up about another 150. And then Ark Survival Evolved being another 150. You can start to see how space management becomes really, really infuriating. Now, most people would have just stuck a hard drive on the back, but here's the thing. Unlike the previous generations where you could just buy any old hard drive and stick it in there pretty much, the Xbox Series S and X only take expansion cards from Seagate and from Microsoft, which are an absolute fortune. Keeping in mind, I paid about 25 quid for a 2TB drive for the Xbox One, and you could easily be paying about £100 for storage of the same size for the Series. It's ridiculous. Now yes, the Series has an SSD, that is true, but I'm not that bothered. I don't mind waiting. You know, I grew up with the N64, I'm used to load times, it's fine, it's not a problem. Now the Series S, unlike the stock Xbox Ones, will run at 1440p, which is great. Other than the fact that the Xbox One X runs natively at 4K. And we're talking raw power wise, the Xbox One X beats out the Series S. Now most games will run better on Series S because of A, the SSD, B, the lower resolution, obviously. Now the Series S will run most games better. A, because of the lower resolution, obviously that's going to have an impact. B, the SSD, it really does help. Almost exclusively with load times, but it does help with things like rendering issues. I don't know if you remember the early days of Cyberpunk when you just be driving and the road would stop because it couldn't render fast enough. That kind of thing. But also the Series S is just more widely developed for. Xbox One X enhanced games had to be specially designed and a lot of studios just didn't bother. However, that being said, there are exceptions where the Xbox One X will genuinely run games better at a higher resolution than the Series S. And of course, the main point, physical media. I would quite like to be able to play the games I own because, you know, I paid for them. And despite the fact that most Xbox One and Series games are keys these days, there's nothing on the discs, it still means A, I have something to collect, and B, some of those games will still work in 20 years. I cannot make the same promise about my digital library. And I know a lot of you are going to be sat there saying, oh, well then just get a Series X. That doesn't solve any of those problems, really. Primarily the physical media point. Most of my Xbox One games, the ones that I have bought anyway, will still work in 20 years. Yes, they won't have the patch updates. Yes, they might be missing content, but they will still work. Now that the Xbox 360 store was shut down, for example, there's a lot of games that Botany will never be able to play again. Although people have done a really good job of going back and preserving Xbox 360 Marketplace games, there's still hundreds, if not thousands, that have just been lost to time, that we just can't play anymore. Yes, it's possible that someone's got them on the consoles and can pull them off, but going through and rounding all of that up is just, it's not going to happen, is it? So we've now just lost hundreds, if not thousands, of Xbox Live Arcade titles just because Microsoft pulled the servers. And yes, I understand that you can still download your own games, and yes, I understand that they physically had to pay to keep that store up and it probably wasn't making money anymore. I get that. But that doesn't change the fact that physical media won't go anywhere. I'm not going to start scratching up any of my discs anytime soon because I know how to look after them. And yes, I understand that accidents happen and people damage discs over time, but that doesn't change the fact that if I just look after them, nothing's going to happen anytime soon. Like, I'm not being funny, but this entire library, it's mine. It's not going anywhere. So I can't stomach an Xbox without a disk drive, regardless of whether it's current generation or not. And I'm not willing to fork over 500 quid for a new generation console when, bluntly, there's just not that many exclusives I care about. For anyone who actually knows me, they know I mostly just play older games anyway. I'll get the occasional new game, but when it is, it's usually an indie game, which means it's not exactly hard to port over to Xbox One because there's just not as much going on. The Xbox One can run it fine, and given how similar they are, kind of, you know, architecturally, as far as how they're built, there's not a lot of coding changes that need to be made, if any. This is the first generation where backwards compatibility isn't emulated, it's just built in. The PS2 had a PS1 processor in there as a sound chip, so you put a PS1 game in, it just booted up, so it was running on native hardware. The Xbox One had to emulate Xbox 360 games through a Microsoft-built emulator, same with Xbox 360 to Xbox Original. These days, they just run. There's no extra programming needed. fundamentally the same architecture exactly. Now, this is by far the longest video I've ever posted, so I guarantee the watch time, as in who's watched the whole video, is going to be 0% and will not budge. I guarantee it. But I mean, if you're still here, leave a comment down below letting us know what console you are currently using as your daily driver. Other than that, drop us a follow and I'll see you next time.